All right, so now we'll work on our manage addresses page. One user can have multiple addresses, and on profile page we have an option for this manage addresses. So we are going to have a separate page where we are going to show the list of addresses and an option to create a new address or edit address as well. We are going to have that functionality as well. All right, so let's create a new page in our components and pages only. For API side of things, we already worked on this, right? Manage addresses page. Here we can have page slash profile slash manage addresses. This URL is up to you. Now for this manage address, I don't want it to be directly in our main layout. That means in the top header and that bottom tab bar. I want this page to be something like navigation stacked page. What I mean by this is it's going to be a page with a header, that nav bar with a back button, and this page will not have any bottom tab bar. Okay, so for this we need a separate layout because we might need this for other pages as well. Manage orders and, for example, order details. We are going to work on order details page as well. So there also we will use stacked page only. Yeah. So in layout only, let's create a new layout and we'll call it, let's say, stacked page layout, something like this. And this is not a layout right now. Layout, it will be when we'll say implement layout. What was the component layout base? Layout component base. Okay, so we have this layout component base here. Now let's see what we have on main layout. From here, let's copy everything. Come to stack page. Let's have it here. Now we will not have tab bar, so let's remove this tab bar. And then we have this nav bar. But right now, if we see in nav bar, we have this page title, toolbar items, and we don't have that back button. So for this, what we will do, we will need to make this nav bar flexible so that it can be used by both of these layouts, main layout and stack page layout. So we have two options. Either we can create a new nav bar for stack page, or we can modify this nav bar only. How can we modify it? We can simply have a parameter here. We'll say public, we can say is stacked page. Okay, and we'll get it as a parameter. And on this stacked page layout, we will simply say is stacked page. That's it. So this is a shorthand of is stacked page equals true. So if the property is of type boolean, parameters of type boolean, and we need to pass the value true, we can simply omit this and we can just have this is stacked page. This will be by default true. Now, because we have not added editor required, and for boolean the default value is false, so on main layout we don't have to do anything. So this is going to work. But still, if you want to explicitly set it, you can simply set it to false like this if you want to. But we don't need this. We can simply skip this. Alright, now stacked page, we are passing this is stacked page to navbar. Now inside this navbar, what we need, first thing, we can get rid of this toolbar items. We are not going to have these toolbar items here. So we can get condition if this is not is stacked page, then only we'll have these toolbar items. First thing is this. Okay, if we want to, this is totally optional. We can maybe have it always, or maybe let's have it always only. Let's not remove anything. We will just have a additional back button. Okay, so when we have this thing, this page title, we have this text center, right? Instead of text center for the, let's see, we'll say if this is not stacked page, then we'll have this what we were having. Else if we have this is stacked page, then we'll simply say text start, or maybe we can have one thing. We can simply have a div here, div class, we'll say display flex or data flex. Just display flex, deflex, and we are going to have a gap of 3 to make some gap. Then we are going to have I class bx, let's say sm, and bx left arrow. We'll see what is the icon name, and then we are going to have this h4. And on this second one we can maybe have the text center only, and we will have flex grow 1, so that it takes entire space and then it is in center aligned. All right, and we will have align items center on this, align items center, px left arrow. Let's quickly check box icon, left, we have this, we can have this dynamic also, that for iOS this icon will be there, for Android this icon will be there. So this is also up to you. If you want to, you can have this as well. This makes sense. So we can simply use this left arrow alt. I'm copying this, go to the Visual Studio and just have this, save it, and I think we should be good now. And we need to add text white here to make it look visible on this thing, on this header. Okay, now when we click on this, we should go back to the previous page. Okay, so for this there can be multiple approaches. We can handle some navigation state somewhere and then we can go, or we can use normal JavaScript for this. Okay, so if we want it to be JavaScript, we can simply wrap this in an anchor tag with href with some JavaScript, and inside this we are going to have this arrow, and href is going to be, we will say that on top of this we want to execute some JavaScript, and the JavaScript is going to be simple history dot go back. That's all. History dot back. Save it, and I guess we should be good. Now we have the stacked page layout. Now we can use this. We'll see if we need to modify anything. We'll do when we'll check this. Now we are on manage addresses page. So we first need to set the page title. So we'll set our page title. Here we'll say manage addresses. Okay. Then let's inject our app state and inject what we call it, user API. Now in code section we are going to have a list of private address DTO. So our addresses equals blank array. Then we are going to have override on initialized async. Here we'll say app state dot show loader. Then we are going to have a simple try finally. We can have catch as well if you want to handle something. And finally, we'll simply say app state dot hide loader, and inside this try we'll say await, then user API dot get addresses async, and we are going to store these in addresses. And now we are good. We will have a list of addresses. Now quickly create a method private async task to create a new address. So we'll say save address. So if we are saving the address, in that case we need to have one piece of state to handle the address model. So we'll say private address DTO nullable underscore address equals null as default value. But when we will save the address, then we'll handle this address if this is null or all these things. Alright, now we are here. Now let's try to show the list of addresses. So here what we'll do, we'll simply have a div class. We can have container or container fluid. Container is fine because we are on smaller screen. So we will have the UI something similar to the profile page UI. So in profile page, we have main menu items with this ULLI, right? So this is what we are going to use. A similar kind of thing. We had container there. We will have same container and then we'll have row, and then let's copy this thing. Or maybe let's copy just one li. Okay. So here we'll say div class container, then we'll say div class row. Then we are going to have div class call 12. And after that we are going to have ul class list unstyled, and inside this we are going to have that li. But for this we need to have this in for each for these addresses, where we'll say at the rate for each var a in underscore addresses plural, and we are going to have li here. Save it. Let's remove this on click. Here we have everything. We will have address this added, instead of added profile we are going to have address name, or maybe just, yeah, let's have address name. We have address name, so address dot name, not address dot name, a dot name, this a. Then this text, here we will have the entire address, so we'll say a dot address. All right, then we have this icon. So instead of this right icon we will have a delete icon here. So we can have I class, everything is fine. We will just change it to bx trash, and this will be text danger. Save it, put delete button. And we have one icon here as well, this edit. Let's have it edit only. Okay, let's have it edit. So we can tap on it and we can edit our address. With this, we are good. Now, if we don't have any address, then we need a plus button. Let's do this. Let's copy this li, and last entry in this ul is going to be for a new address creation. So here, instead of this bx edit, we will have bx plus. I hope we have this icon. And then in this flex grow and all, we will simply have one text where we'll say add a new address. And then here we are not going to have this icon. Just get rid of this and just get rid of this div vector. Save it. And with this, let's have this plus icon in the top toolbar item as well. Yeah, we didn't try toolbar item yet, right? If we go to our stacked page layout, we'll go to our nav bar. In nav bar, we have this section named toolbar items. So let's quickly try to use this. Here, we will have this section content for this toolbar items. We are going to have this plus button, this one. BX, BXX, SM, BX plus, and here we'll say text white. Save it, and we'll see now how it looks. But before that, we need to have some address, right? So we have this plus, we have here as well this plus icon. So we have two different places for creating a new address, but we are not using those right now. So what we can do, when we tap on add a new address, at that time, let's say I'll say here private void add new address, something like this. Here, first thing I'll do, I'll set address equals new. So now this address has some value. Then we are going to show an edit form in our bottom sheet. Okay. So we have two options. Either we can simply handle this at the rate address. If this is not null, then we are going to show our bottom sheet. Or we can have the similar kind of thing which we are having on profile page, some boolean value to uh, handle the showing and hiding of the bottom sheet. So here let's use underscore address only. If address is not null, that means we have value in address. That means we are creating a new address. Later when we'll work on the edit address, then we are going to use the similar thing. We'll set this underscore address to the actual address. Then also we are going to use the similar thing. So it will be there for that case also. Alright, so for this we are going to have a bottom sheet. In a bottom sheet, first we need to have a title. So title we can say save address. Okay. Or if you want to make it dynamic, you can simply check this address. If the ID is blank or 0, then we'll say add new address. And if the ID is greater than 0, then we'll can have this edit address or update address, something like this. Then we have on close. So when we are closing it, then what we'll do, we'll simply set this underscore address to null. So using this will be cleared. Now inside this we need to have something. So we have same option. We can create a separate component in shared the way we are having our change password form and update profile form, or we can directly have it here, edit form. It's up to you how you're designing it, but having it in a separate component makes more sense, because whenever we'll do anything, it will re-render the whole component. And if that is a separate component, that then it will re-render that specific component only. That will not affect this current parent component. If we have it here, then whenever we are making any change in that that form, then it will re-render this page as well. So that's why it's better to have separate component. Okay, and shared only, add Blazor component, let's say save address form. Wait for it, and we can maybe copy any one, maybe just change password or update profile. We can use any of these. So let's say maybe update profile form, we can simply copy it. We can come to our save address form, just paste it, and we'll modify it as per our need. App state is fine, auth state is fine, user API is fine. We don't need auth state here, do we? Yes, we need. No, we don't. We'll see. If we need it, we'll add it back. On initialize model.name and all, we don't need these. Update profile, we will have update address async, or let's say save address async. Okay. Then user API dot save address async, and we are going to have address DTO. This update profile DTO, it will become address DTO. And we will not have it as this new, because this address we are going to get it from the consumer page. That means manage addresses page. Here we are handling the current address which we are dealing with, we are creating or modifying. So we will pass this as a parameter to this. That means it needs to be public, and get set, it needs to be a property, and we need to add the parameter to this, and editor required as well because this is required for this. In that case, I'm going to simply change this to uppercase model. This is the convention for properties. Okay, then we don't need this on initialized here. We'll see if we need, we'll add it back. We have this model, we are going to pass this model here. Then we'll see the save address DTO, it returns API result. So we are good. Here we can just say address saved successfully, and we don't need this auth state related stuff. On saved, invoke async, and everything else looks fine. So we are good with the code, but in HTML we'll have it as model. We'll change this on valid submit to save address async, and then these things. So here we have our addresses. So first let's have name. So address name basically model name, model dot name. Here we'll say enter, or maybe let's give some hint. We'll say address name. We can simply say, for example, home or office, something like this. All right. Then we have mobile number, but instead of mobile number, here we are just going to have address, the proper complete address. We'll say model, model dot mobile, not mobile. We'll say model dot address, model dot address. Placeholder, we'll say enter address, enter full address, something like this, because we are not having separate uh, fields. If you have city, zip code, state, all those things separately, you can have multiple fields here. Now in this address DTO, we have one more option for is default, if this address is default or not. Okay, for this we are going to use bootstraps switch, which is a checkbox only in this format. You see, so we are going to use this one, the second one, this one. Let's copy this thing, go to the Visual Studio. Here we will have it in our div class mb3, and we are going to have it here. Form check input, this. Okay, now this is proper input type checkbox. Let's change it to input checkbox, and then we'll use bind value with our model dot is default. Okay, then we have for this thing, it should have this ID. Let's change this ID to, we will not have this checked by default, it will be handled by this input checkbox only. This ID, this is fine, we can leave it, but because we have it, so we'll say is default address chk, something like this for checkbox. So we will use this ID in this label 4, and then this text, it should be changed to is default address question mark, like this. And with this we should be good. Save address async, we are saving it. Cool, we just need to get this model from the previous consumers page. We have this manage address as consumer, so here we'll say save address form, and here it will ask for child content, bottom sheet access value for parameter child content, we have provided it. Save address form, it needs on saved and model. Okay. So for model, we are going to provide underscore address, and for on saved, we will just do the same thing, address equals null. Save it, and we should be good now. Save address, we don't need to have it here. And for this add new address, so we can simply have it directly like this. And if we are having just this, we can have it in our template as well. So on this li, we'll say at the rate on click, and we can simply set this to like this. Similarly, we can copy this thing, and we have toolbar item. The top is I. Here also we can do the same thing. Save it. Now we should be good. Now let's quickly work on edit address as well, so that we can directly test it in one go. So we have all these LIs. We have this delete button. Are we having delete address functionality in our API? Let's quickly verify. So we have services, user service. We have save address, get address. We don't have delete address. We should have delete address as well. Let's quickly work on delete address. Public async task and API result. So we'll say delete address async. And here we can get address ID and user ID. We'll get this address. So we'll say var address equals await underscore context dot user addresses dot. We could use find async with this address ID. Here we'll say if address is null, that means this address does not exist. So we'll say API result dot fail, address not found, something like this. Now if it is found, then we will simply verify it. If the address dot user ID, if this address belongs to this current user only. If this is not, then we'll return API result dot fail. We can say invalid request. If that is also not the case, then we can safely delete it. So we can have a try catch here, and we'll say context dot user addresses dot remove this address. And then we'll say await context dot save changes async and just return API result dot success. And in the exception, we'll simply have ex, and we'll return API result dot fail ex dot message. With this, our delete address async method is ready. Let's copy this. Go to the API in our .MAUI application, iUser API. Here we are going to define this method without user ID. Here we'll say delete. We are going to create it as an HTTP delete verb. Here we are going to have same API user, then we have these addresses, then we are going to have address ID. So this address ID, I think address ID is long, right? User address, no, it is int only. Okay, all right. So we have this int address ID. We are good. Let's copy this. Go to our API endpoints. So in API project endpoints, user endpoints, we are going to define one more endpoint. Maybe let's duplicate the last one. We'll say user group dot map delete. URL route is going to be this address ID, which will be of type int. We can have route constraint here. Here we are going to get this int address ID, then user service and claims principal. This is fine. Here we'll say service dot delete address async, and we are going to provide address ID and user ID as principal dot get user ID. After that, here we'll simply say delete address, and this produces just API result, nothing else. Save everything, and now we should be good. we can use this. Where manage address, yeah. So here now we have on initialize where we are fetching these. We can have delete address method here. So private async task delete address async, and we can provide int address id as a parameter here. Okay, and here we are going to use, let's say, try finally only. We'll say app state dot show loader, and finally we'll say app state dot hide loader. And then here we'll say var result or just API result equals await user API dot delete address async, and we'll provide this address ID. Then we'll quickly check if not API result dot is success. If this operation was not successful, we'll simply say await MAUI interrupt dot alert async, then message. So message we'll get from API result dot error. Title we can have just error. Alright. And after this we'll simply return from here. We will not do anything. That's not the case. That means the operation was successful. We can directly remove the address from this list. So we have two options. Either we can simply modify this list using simply modifying it here only, or if we want to, we can simply refetch the data. So for refetching, let's do this, because when we are saving the address, then also it would be easy to refetch the list of addresses. So let's do this. Let's cut whatever we have in on initialize async method. We are going to create a helper method here. We'll say private async task. Let's say load addresses async. Paste everything here, and from on initialized async, we'll simply call await load addresses async. And same load addresses async method we are going to call here when we are here at delete address async. So we'll say await load addresses async, and here we can simply show a toast message MAUI interrupt dot toast async address deleted. All right, cool. Delete is fine. And here when we are here at save address, so if you go to save address, after saving here also, okay, we already have toast async. Cool, we are good. Now let's quickly work on edit address. So for that we can quickly just do this one thing. This li, this is for edit. We have this this icon for editing. So we can simply say at the rate on click, and we can simply set this underscore address equals this a. Okay, and similarly we can simply copy this and maybe paste it with the address name as well. So here also if we tap on it, from here also we can edit this. Then we have this delete button. So on this anchor we'll say on click delete address async. We need to provide the address id as in parameter. So we'll say this a.id. Save. Alright, I guess we are good. We just need to come to this page from our profile page. Let's quickly go to profile page. Here we have this manage address. On this li, we can simply say on click, and we can directly use navigation manager here. Navigation manager dot navigate to, and we are going to have this URL. We'll add at the rate, start from here and go till here. So navigate to profile manage address. Save everything. We need to run the API because we have done some changes in API. Dev tunnel is already selected. Let's start the API, and then I'm going to start the mobile MAUI app on my physical phone. Then we'll see how it is looking and if the functionality is working. And we have some problem. It says class stacked page layout cannot have multiple base classes. Component base. If we come here, we have implements, not implements. It is going to be inherits layout component base. And on manage addresses page, we didn't set the layout. Here we need to set the layout. This stacked page layout. Save, run. Okay, app is here. Let's go to profile page, manage addresses, and we can see this. We are here, right? We have plus, we have back icon, which is very small right now, be a bit bigger. And when we press back, we are on my profile page, but bottom tab, it is not working in this case. We need to see why it is not working. We need to maybe have, because we came using JavaScript back. That's why. Let's try this manage address again. If I use this back button, let's do this profile. Then if I go to the edit profile, not edit profile, sorry, manage address. And if I come back, it directly goes to home page. Okay, we'll see why it is not working. But first thing we need to see for manage address. We had that loader. We have this add new address. Let's click on it. We can see the save address here. Let's try to add some address. Let's do home only. Here, my home address. We can set it to default and save changes. We are saving it. Address saved successfully, but this did not get updated. If we go back and come back, we can see the address. That means it came, but when we are saving it at that time, maybe we are not, yes. On saved, we are just saying address equals null. We are not reloading it. So for this, what we can do, we can simply create a method here on address saved. Something like this. Let's create this method address saved async. Let's create this method here. So we'll say private async task on address save async. First thing we'll set underscore address to null, and then we'll say await load addresses async. This thing only, and then we don't have that white background these, right? But we had that previously. So on this ul or div, where did we have it on our profile page? We had bg white on row with some top margin. We can skip top margin if we want to. It is totally up to us. But we have this thing here. So bg white, save it. Maybe on this container we can have pt, so padding top 3. Save it. And let's, and one more thing, we are not having any visual indicator for our default address, right? So we should have something here. Maybe after the name, let's have some default text. So we have this name. After this name, let's say I'll have a ternary operator here. We'll say a dot is default. If this is default, then we are going to have something else. We are going to have something else. Or maybe let's do this. After this label, inside this label, after a dot name, let's have a proper if case. If age dot is default, then we'll have a small tag. Here we'll say like this default. And on this small, we can maybe have class text success. Or maybe we can show this as a badge, right? In Bootstrap, we have badges. If we go to Bootstrap, let's search for badge, fill badges or badge. Yeah, these things, right? So this success, this one. Let's copy this, go to our Visual Studio, and let's have it like this, and the value will be just default. Save it. Let's restart. Okay, we are here. Profile, manage addresses. We are here. We can see the addresses. On the last one, same thing. This last one, we are not going to have border bottom. So we'll skip this. Save it. Now, home, this is not default. Let's click on this. Let's say office or my office. I did something. Home or something like that. Yeah. So my office. Then here we'll say my office address will go here. And this time let's set it to default. We'll save changes. Address saved, but it didn't get updated again. We have on saved. We have this thing address and then await load addresses async. Still manage addresses. We have only one address. It didn't create this. Add new address. Let's try my office. My office address default. Let's save it. Something is not right. Let's see what we have in our API. So user service, save address async. If dto.id is 0, we are doing this. Try, save changes async. Everything looks fine. Now we need to run API as well to check this why it is not working. So now what I will do, I need to debug both. I'm going to right click on the solution properties. Here we are going to set multiple startup project at once. So the mobile will say start, debug target, physical device, API start, debug target, HTTPS. This is what we are using. Here, let's rename this new profile. We'll say dev tunnel plus physical device basically. So apply. Yes. Okay. Now this is selected. Let's start. So now it is going to start both the API and the mobile app in debug mode so that we can debug both. Let's wait it to start. Let's try to see code when that is starting. For saving address, we are saying just if we came here with address DTO, we have user address, we added all these values, add, then after this, we simply have save changes async. There we are adding as well, right? Add. Yeah, it should work. We are setting user ID as well. Okay. Then for getting the addresses, we have user ID. We are adding this user ID. Oh, my bad. You see, this is the problem. We are checking this user ID with this a.id, but it should be a.user ID equals user. Okay, that means no need to run it like this. Let's cancel it. So it will be faster if we run these separately. That's why I do this separately. But this selecting multiple projects at startup, you can do this also. But for this also, you first need to set the dev tunnel. Whenever you open Visual Studio, select API project, select the dev tunnel, and then change the profile to that profile, the combined profile which you created. So I'm going to run API again because we made this change here. Now we'll see. Now my address should be twice, and we should see is default only on one, because that is what we have done, right? In our code, we checked if the newly created address is having as is default to true. If there is any address which was previously set to is default, we will simply remove is default from the previously is default address. Let's see. App is here, profile, manage addresses, and we can see these addresses. We should have some space here, but we can see this. All right, now let's delete this address. We deleted it, and again it should have reloaded, but it didn't. Are we doing something similar? Let's go back. What is happening? It's not working. Do we have some error? Output window. Yes, we have some error. Response status code does not indicate success 404. We need to handle these errors also at some centralized place. So that means for deletion, we have used incorrect URL. So if we go here, we have delete address, we have this delete address async, API user addresses address ID with HTTP delete. Yes, this is what we have in our API, right? So API endpoints, user endpoints. Oh, we missed this addresses. This should be slash addresses slash address ID int. So we need to run both again. API, we can right click on the API project and debug, start without debugging. And then we'll start our mobile app again. Before starting the mobile app, let's have some spacing. We are on, where is it? Manage addresses page. Yes, we are here. And here, when we have this pill, we can say ms margin start 2 or 3. We can have some spacing here. And then when we're deleting, let's have confirmation first and then delete. So here we can simply say await, if await MAUI interrupt dot confirm async message. Do you really want to delete this address? And we can say confirm address deletion, something like this. We'll return if this is not true. If this is true, then we'll simply go ahead and delete this address and then reload these addresses. Okay, save everything and let's start the mobile app. App is here, profile, manage address. Let's, yeah, we have this space now. Let's try to delete it. Confirm, no, nothing will happen. Yes, address deleted and it got removed from here as well. Alright, now if we tap on this, we are in edit mode. We can see the values are loaded here. This was not default, so we'll set this to default, save changes. Now my office is default, address saved successfully. Now let's see what happens if I select this home. I'm editing it and I'm setting this as default. Now the office default, this should get removed, and this default, this home address should be default now. If I do this, you see this thing is working. So this bottom sheet should come from here also, and we are good. So we have this functionality what we were expecting. So everything is working fine. Only this back button. So let's do this. For this back, we are on manage addresses. We know we came here from the profile page, right? Instead of, okay, on back button, we need to have some operation. Hmm. So for JavaScript, we need to maybe debug what is happening here. Let's do a quick check. If we can directly get it to work, then we'll do this. If not, we'll do it the Blazor way. Okay, we'll try to find something. But right now, let's do this. We'll go to our bottom tab bar. Where is our, oh, now I get it. What is happening? Where is our layout tab bar? What is happening when we go to the stack page layout? At that time, the main layout is not there. That means tab bar, this component is also gets destroyed. Now, when we come back to this main layout, at that time we have this tab bar again initialized, because now it is initializing, so it will have the default values. And what is the default value? We have home page as default value. Selected page URL page routes.home. But what should happen? The default value should not be this, default value should be this. The current location, on the basis of current location, we should have this. So, what we'll do, and then we are setting these location changed, etc. So, here what we can do, we can simply say selected page URL equals. Now, here we need to get the location. In this location changed, we had this e.location. But for here, we will simply have navigation manager dot URI. This is going to be the complete URI, and from here we can simply replace this thing. Why this happens? So we'll use this replace here like this only. Then selected page URL will be the current page URL. Let's quickly see if it works. App is here. Let's quickly try again. Manage address, go back, and boom, it is working fine now. You see, we are on profile only. Home, go back to profile, manage address, back button works, manage address. From here, we can come back and profile is selected. So this thing is also working. So with this, our manage address section is working. Our profile page is done now. All right. Now we'll work on orders, but before orders, we need to place those orders. We were on cart page, right? If you remember, from home, if we add some items, we'll go to the cart page. Here we had this continue button. So now when we hit continue, we should select the address, then we'll place the order. This thing will work next.